Hello and thank you for joining me today. Today I'll be creating a mixed media layout from start to finish featuring Blue Fern Studios Spring Parade collection. As you can see, my layout is a very pastel layout with lots of flowers, a little bit of chipboard, lots of sparkle, and some cute little bunnies. The first thing I did to create this layout was cut 3 images from a pattern paper called Susie's Garden, as you can see here. The second thing I did was I did add a layer of clear gesso to the Sunday Best pattern paper, and I did that all off camera. And now you can see I'm cutting the remaining piece of Susie's Garden, and this will become my layering pieces for my layout. So I'm sorry this is sped up so fast, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't skip any steps and that you really saw start to finish. So with that being said, here you can see I'm cutting the labeling strips off of each of the pattern papers, and that's because, as you can see, there's 2 different patterns of paper on the back of each of the strips, and they come in handy in the layering process, which you'll see later on in this video. I'm just going to continue working with my layers, distressing some, and then I'll edge some with a gray marker. Typically I'll do this with the lighter layout, and with a darker layout I'll use a black marker. It just gives the paper more of a finished look. Now you'll see me emboss both of my Blue Fern Studio chipboards. The first one is from the Ginger Poppies, and the second one is the Joy, which comes from the winter titles. I've used Ivory and Pearl. The first coat is the Ivory, and then the second coat you'll see is the Pearl. I really do like to use the Pearl over top of a color. I like the way it adds a little bit of an iridescence to it. I'm not sure that I would use it by itself. I don't really like it on the chipboard by itself, but that's just my preference. Here you can see that I'm just adding a little bit of color to the center of my layout, and I'm just building up where my focal point's going to be. I'm not adding too much to this because this page already has a lot going on. I'm just kind of centering where my focal point's going to be. Now you'll see me do a little bit of random stamping using the Tattered Newsprint stamp, and I did use a gray for this and not the typical black that I normally use. Just because it is such a pastel layout, I wanted to keep it softer. But I do really love this stamp because it's very random, and it's easy to stay random. It doesn't look very structured even if I don't roll the stamp the way that I use it. Now you'll see me continue to play with my layers and just build them up until I'm comfortable with the way that they look. And I'm sorry, I know this is very tedious, but I really did want you to see everything from start to finish, just so you know it doesn't just come together just like that. It is a process, and it isn't always easy for everybody, and it doesn't always come together so quickly for people. And sometimes I just think that's nice for people to know. Anyhow, now you can see that I've stapled my main base together, and that's just so I can go ahead and tuck things in later, which you'll see me do later on. I've learned that stapling them together gives me a little bit of leeway, so I can go back and add things and not have to rip things apart with a layer of glue. But you've noticed that I've not adhered my picture down, and I never adhere my picture to the very end because I've ruined so many pictures with glue or mist or paint or my fingers or something. So I always add my picture last, but I did want to know where the twine was going to be, so I went ahead and added that in. And now you can see me adding my 3 fussy cut images that I cut off camera. I love to add fussy cut images whenever I can because they add so much to a layout. It's inexpensive, there's no extra thickness, and it's just a nice little way to add some extra oomph to your layout. Plus, for me, it's very stress relieving to fussy cut the images out. It's just a mundane task, so my mind just goes numb, but that's just me. Now you can see that I'm placing my chipboard around the paper until I'm happy with the way that it looks. And again, I'm just in the planning stage of the layout. I haven't really glued too much down. And you're going to see me continue to add pieces here and there and move things around, again not gluing anything down. The two sets of flowers that I wound up working with are the Courtship roses and late winter lilies. They went really well with this collection. I'm not sure if they were released with this collection because it was before I joined the team, but they do coordinate very well with this collection. And you'll just see me continue to build my two clusters, my main cluster of course with my title, and my accent cluster in the opposite corner. But here you can see that I'm being drawn to this little gap between the bunny's ears and the layered paper up here. So as you can see, I just fussy cut a tiny bit off of one of the images on the bottom that was going to get covered with flowers anyhow, and I moved it up behind the bunny's ears because it just kept drawing my attention and I had to fix it before I continued. And now I'm back to moving around the flowers, but I'm actually gluing them down now. Yay! And that's why the picture is gone, because I would get glue on the picture. So now we're gluing down the flowers here and there and just building up my clusters. And I'm still not sure where the chipboard's going to go, so I'll move it 100 times. And that is one of the reasons why I really like to work with just glue and not hot glue, because it's really not permanent at this stage and I still have the option to move it around. But again, that's personal preference. Some people like to have it down, be done, and know it's not going to move. But for me, I like that flexibility. Now you can see that I'm adding a little bit of a lilac gel-based paint, and this is nice to work with because it works as an adhesive, so I'll be able to add my seedlings and my glitter right on top of it, plus I'm giving the layout a little bit of color as well. And because it is a gel base, it adds a little bit of a shine. But as you can see, I'm adding my seedlings and now I'm adding glitter on top of that. I'm going to go ahead and use a gel paint as well on my flowers, and then I'm going to add a little bit of seedlings and glitter to my flowers as well. I like to do that with the flowers. I just think that it makes them look extra pretty, but that's, again, personal preference. And you can see that I just use a little spoon, and that way I don't waste too much. Now I've shaken it off into the garbage. I don't try to save it. I just haven't found a way to make that work. I'm sure some people have great ideas with that. I just try to use it as sparingly as possible. And now you can see I'm adding just a little bit more color. My cluster got a little bit bigger than I had initially planned for, so I just wanted to add a little bit back in. Not too much again, just a little bit. Now you're going to see me use those strips that I was talking about at the bottom. And this is a great little trick. It doesn't add any extra bulk to your layout, but it really just makes it look like you used a ton of paper and a ton of layers, and it just changes it up quite a bit. So you can see I'm just adding these tiny little strips tucked behind my layers with a little bit of foam tape. And it really does add just a lot of dimension to your layout without making it extra thick. And there's not any real extra waste because it's just the bottom of the paper that I already used anyhow. And I'm just going to continue to tuck these in here and there until I'm happy with the way that it looks. And I think this is the last one. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be adding my little splatters. And I just like to do this. This is my thing. For me, it just ties things together and adds a little bit of something to the layout for me. But I just added a little bit of white, and now I'm adding some opal color, and I just added a little purple to that just to make it a little bit more purple. And then I'll add a third color. And as you can see, I'm touching just the tops of my flowers here and there, and that's just getting a little paint on them, just to accent them a little bit and make them go together just a little bit more. I'm going to add a little bit of sequins here and there later, and you'll see me add them here and there, but it gets really tedious, so I do skip most of that. Finally, it's time to adhere my picture, so that means it's almost time to be done. And now I'm going to add my title and a tiny piece of pattern paper that I typed the word "Find the," so the title of the layout is actually "Find the Joy." And it fit for me with the bunnies because they reminded me of the bunnies that my dad had growing up. He loved these fluffy bunnies, so it was really the perfect kind of picture for this time of year for me. And I'm just going to continue to add my sequins around my layout. I do skip over most of this because honestly it was very tedious and time consuming and no one needs to see that. But here's the final look at my layout. I'm just making sure that everything is exactly where I want it and there's nothing out of place or screaming at me like, hey, this doesn't look right. But here's a look at all the little tiny sparkles and splatters, and that's really it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you've enjoyed it, and I will see you next month with another video. Bye-bye.